When you're watching dressage, you're probably not thinking about the art of war. But that's exactly where dressage comes from. It is training the horse and the rider to be skilled out on a battlefield in preparation for war. And I'll be the first to admit, it's hard sometimes when you're watching something, say, for example, a Canter Pirouette. It's hard to imagine how that would help anyone on a battlefield or how that could be used in a battle situation. Like, to me, the Canter Pirouette looks like the most harmless movement. Like, I can't even imagine what benefit it would have on a battlefield other than maybe like helping maneuver in turns. But I recently saw something that I think like really opened my eyes to how exactly a Canter Pirouette could be used on a battlefield in a war situation beyond just being able to quickly maneuver and turn. So I'm going to play that for you so you can all see what I'm talking about. So this is what I'm talking about, kind of an illustration of how the Canter Pirouette may have been used on the battlefield in olden times. And I realize, yes, that wasn't like a correct, proper competition Canter Pirouette, like this one per se, but a Canter Pirouette on a battlefield in a time of war is not going to look the same as a Canter Pirouette in a competition ring. And I also think that this illustrates how the Canter Pirouette can be used beyond making the horse more maneuverable in turns and changes of direction. It can also be used to push somebody over or aside, like you see here. And I had never before considered this as one of the purposes of the Canter Pirouette and training the Canter Pirouette before. And honestly, I think it would have been really cool if when I was coming up getting riding lessons, if like the people giving me those riding lessons had explained things like this to me about the movements that I was learning at the time. Because I think the history of the movements, beyond just the movements themselves, is just absolutely fascinating. And I think it gives another perspective as to why we do what we do in dressage. It really is like a very long traditional training method that had reasons behind each movement. And sometimes those reasons might go beyond what we might imagine them to be. And another thing that I find really interesting is that we really don't need these movements anymore for battle. Like, we don't go to war with horses really anymore. And there was probably somebody out there at some point who was like, wow, all of these vehicles and mechanization and all of these advances are taking over the job of the horse. How can we keep the horse itself relevant? And so they found a way to turn it into an art form or a sport as maybe a way to keep the horses themselves relevant in our day-to-day lives. Because if we didn't want them for art or sport, like, how many fewer horses would there even be in the world? Like, it's possible that there would be far fewer people with horses if they had not gone from this to this. But maybe that's just me. I just love learning the history of stuff. I always have. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Like, is there a particular dressage movement, Western movement, or even jumping movement that you could see being used out on a battlefield at a time of war? And if so, what movement is it? And what kind of benefit do you think that it would have out on the battlefield? And it doesn't have to be historically accurate. I would just love to hear what your thoughts are on it in the comments below.